Hello and welcome to my new Medicine for Kids video. Probably you've already heard the word pandemic in connection with all the coronavirus news that your parents and you too have certainly been following. And maybe you're wondering what this actually is, such a pandemic. In this video I want to explain to you what a pandemic actually is, where it comes from, if there has been such a thing before, and how we all have to pull together in the case of the coronavirus. With the word pandemic, one describes the spread of an infectious disease across the borders of different countries and even continents. The word comes from the Greek word pandemia and means all the people. Pan means something like all or the whole, and demos is the people. But how does it come that an infectious disease can spread so far? There are many different infectious diseases, but not all of them lead to pandemics. What is the reason for that? How and if an infectious disease leads to a pandemic depends on many different factors. These include the pathogen, the type of transmission, and the host, for example, the human being. In addition, the spread of an infectious disease depends on whether we can treat it well, whether there is a vaccination, and whether one is immune after the infection, meaning one cannot get the disease again. So let's talk about pathogens. There are very different pathogens, for example viruses, bacteria, or parasites, each of which can damage the body in different ways. In addition, the type of transmission plays a role. Some pathogens, such as the coronavirus, are transmitted via small droplets that are expelled when speaking or coughing. Others are transmitted via the blood or other body fluids. Another factor that plays a role in whether an infectious disease becomes a pandemic is the host. In the case of the coronavirus, the human being. It depends on how soon after an infection the host falls sick, whether he or she is already contagious before they become aware of the infection, how seriously sick they are, and how well their host's immune system can deal with the pathogen. And finally, an important factor is whether we can shorten or attenuate the course of the disease, for example with medication, or even prevent it completely by vaccination. As you can see, the whole thing is quite complicated, because many different factors have an influence on how an infectious disease spreads and whether it becomes a pandemic. Now to the question of whether such pandemics have already happened before. Yes, there have been many different pandemics, and I would like to tell you about some examples. Let's take a little journey through time together. Probably you've already heard of the plague. The spread of the plague was one of the worst pandemics ever. However, it was almost 700 years ago, spread over a long period of time, and occurred in several waves. The pandemic started in Asia and was brought to Europe over the Silk Road by traders. This is how the bacteria that caused the plague, Yersinia pestis, reached Europe. In Europe, the bacteria were transmitted by rat fleas. Back then, however, no one knew anything about this bacterium. It was discovered much later. At the time, many people assumed that the disease was a punishment from God. It is estimated that about 1/3 of the world population of that time died of the plague. But fortunately, that was a very long time ago. Another pandemic that was not quite so long ago was the Spanish flu. The Spanish flu broke out about 100 years ago. The name is a bit misleading, because actually the Spanish flu did not come from Spain, but from the United States. The virus was spread all over the world during the First World War by the soldiers who crossed the seas in warships. The Spanish flu was a serious infection that affected many millions of people, and even more people died than during the First World War, which was just coming to an end. A more recent pandemic, which is still ongoing, is the HIV or AIDS pandemic. This pandemic began in Africa in the 80s and then spread all over the world. HIV infection leads to a weakening of the immune system. However, there are now effective drugs that allow people who are infected to live a normal life and get as old as other people, provided that they take the medication regularly. Nevertheless, the disease is still a big problem in Africa and partly also still worldwide. So let us get back to the coronavirus. The spread of the coronavirus is now also a pandemic. But where did it all start? The first corona cases occurred in China a few months ago, in December 2019 in Wuhan. Some of the first infected people from the city worked at a wholesale market where many different animals were traded. Who exactly the first patient was and from which animal the virus was transmitted is still not known exactly. It is assumed that the coronavirus originally came from bats, was then transmitted to another animal, and entered the humans via this animal. And humans transmit the virus when we are coughing. Maybe you remember that from my other video. In today's world, such a virus can spread very quickly, because we all travel a lot, your parents may go on business trips around the world, and our trade has become globalized and international. So, travelers have brought the virus from China to Europe and to the United States, among other places, and infected other people there, who in turn have infected other people, and so on and so forth. So, within a few months, the coronavirus has spread almost all over the world. And because we all normally move around a lot, and because humans are social beings and have a lot of contact with other people, it is very difficult at a certain point to trace back the infection processes. Do you still remember who you met with a week ago and who this person might have met on the same day? In order to slow down the spread of the coronavirus, it is now important to restrict all these movements around the world and within the different countries and cities, and to limit the contacts with other people. That way, we all help to prevent the virus from spreading too fast, so that not too many people will fall sick within a short period of time, because otherwise our health system would be overburdened and not all patients would be able to receive sufficient care. I hope this video has made it a little bit clearer to you what a pandemic is and how it can happen. Thank you for watching and listening. I'm happy about your likes and if you share the video with your friends and subscribe to the channel. Bye, see you next time!